Welcome to Tech Talk with Craig Peterson, show number 685. We're going to have a bunch of guests per usual today. We'll be talking about Apple's latest products here, some of the shipments, as well as an announcement, a little bit about what the shakeup is doing over at Apple. We're also going to review some other articles in the news, one of them here about the Google Nexus 4 phone, about a new social app here that really helps to simplify video sharing and some collaboration. China, you might have heard, they have a new aircraft carrier. It's been in testing now for a little over a year. It doesn't work yet, near as we can tell. But they seem to have also taken some of our technology from the latest F-22 and F-35 fighters. China's launched two of their own. I'll talk a little bit about new patents here today, some of the 10 things that are going to happen here, or at least we fear might happen with Disney's acquisition of Lucasfilm, and also Microsoft, of course, with the new Windows 8. And we're going to talk a little bit about the tablets that Acer was going to make and some of the problems that Acer is looking at and what they're doing. This is a really big deal here for Microsoft. And, of course, our guest today, we're going to be talking a little bit about some of the technology for our homes here, some security stuff, kind of fall technology overall, how to reduce your energy use costs. We'll be talking with Honeywell today and many others, including some very cool power here, this LumaFuel power. So all of those guests will be joining us in just a few minutes. I want to remind everyone to visit us online. If you go to craigradio.com, you'll see links there to my website, also Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. And we have a lot of discussions on those. And we're looking at maybe making some fairly major changes here to parts of the show and cater maybe to a couple of audiences a little bit more specifically. So we would love to hear from you. Are there other shows that you enjoy and think, well, maybe, Craig, if you took a little bit of this show and a little bit of that show and put it together along with a couple of other things, it would be an even better show. So go ahead and send me a tweet or a note on Facebook or LinkedIn message, whatever works best for you, maybe even an email to producer@craigpeterson.com. Or if you go again to craigradio.com, you'll see my links there for Twitter and Facebook, so you can send us some direct messages. We're really trying to make the show very interactive, provide you with the information that you want, the things that you're looking for to help make your life a little better, more fun, maybe your business as well. We have a lot of people who are small business people who listen to the show, and we love to have them. So maybe you have some ideas as well. Maybe you have the big idea that you might want to share with us to help make the show a little bit better place for you. All right, so let's get into some of the articles in the news this week. Those people who follow me on Twitter or on Facebook who've liked my page will find a few of these a little bit familiar because I shared them with you this week. Now, this first one here is on Samsung's new phone that they built for Google, their new Nexus phone. And there were a lot of complaints out there. Samsung had a phone out. I'm talking about LG's Nexus 4, which is the latest phone here that Google's come out with. Well, it's interesting here because they were all complaining, Samsung being one of them, that the Apple iPhone and the 4 and the 4S just didn't have the technology with the new fast networks, the new 4G LTE. And now Google has a little bit of egg on its face because after all of those ads that were run about the Android smartphones being smarter, faster, better, leap tall buildings in a single bound, turns out that the new phone that Google has out now, which is the Nexus 4, doesn't use 4G LTE. In fact, it's stuck on the lower, slower networks out there, the HSPA, in case you get really technical here. And there are some questions about why, and there's an interview that I linked to, too, with Android's head, Andy Rubin. And they're saying that the lack of the LTE technology is a tactical issue talking about cost and battery life, because as you may know, the more you use LTE, the shorter your battery lives, and that's a pretty bad thing. I know I've got a 3G phone, an iPhone, and I like the 3G iPhone, but one of the things that I really like is that it usually lasts me all day on a charge. And the only time it doesn't is when I'm doing a fair amount of heavy data stuff. My older Android phone, which had the LTE technology, would not come close to making it through a full day. So that's one thing they were looking at, apparently. You're listening to Tech Talk with Craig Peterson. We're going through some of the articles in the news this week, and you can find these articles on my Twitter feed, on my Facebook page, via LinkedIn. Now, each one of these is a little bit different. LinkedIn, for instance, just gets the business stories. The Twitter feed gets everything. Facebook gets some of the more interesting stuff. So you can find me by going to craigradio.com, and right there you'll find the links to Twitter and Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, because, for instance, my monologue here is posted on YouTube. I've been doing that almost every week, and appreciate all the people that are following me. We have some people that have actually signed up to get my video, so hey, hi to all of you guys and gals out there, and thanks for following me on YouTube as well. So all of that's at craigradio.com. Now, this next one is about an app. Now, I had a meeting with a guy the other day who was trying to build an app. He's got some great ideas. You know, building these things can be the killer, and using the APIs of these application programming interfaces of some of the other apps and websites that are out there right now can save you a lot of time. Well, there is a new one called Threadlife, and the idea here is that you can share a few seconds, basically little 3-second videos of your life with other people. And you can find people, discover them, follow people, and also post your own stuff. And there's a lot of video sharing apps out there, and this one's trying to make it simple for you to do this type of sharing. There's others out there like Social Cam, which has some editing in it, music selection, but you might find this Threadlife app, which is for the Apple iPhone and iPad here. It's iOS based. A simple and a fun app to use, bottom line. They've got a lot of options, make some things a little counterintuitive here from this article I've been reviewing on Wired.com. China, now this I mentioned in the opening here. China's been very, very busy. They've built a new, well, the very first, in fact, carrier for aircraft called the Liaoning, if I've got the pronunciation even close to right. And it's been undergoing testing since July of 2011, so well over a year. And they have not even landed one airplane on that deck yet. And I know we've been very concerned and watching, well, what's China trying to do? You might have heard on some of the other radio shows on the stations that broadcast my show that China has been kind of saber-rattling here with Japan about some islands in the South China Sea and other things. So there's a lot of concerns about China having a big military and building it all up. Well, no real concerns yet, because it looks like they can't get it right. And if you're watching me on YouTube right now, you'll see this picture here of the J-31 on its debut flight. Now, if you take a close look at this and think back to some of the other fighters we've been releasing, stealth fighters, well, the big deal here is it really looks like that maybe what they've done here is taken some of the U.S., the F-22 and F-35 jets. So the big question is, where did the blueprints for Beijing's new fighter come from? And they were reportedly stolen from the servers of at least 6 American aerospace contractors back in 2009. So they are trying to rebuild this based on some of the specs, and of course even having blueprints just isn't enough. And I'm kind of running through some pictures right now on the YouTube feed here, but you can see this whole article and the links to it again on Facebook and Twitter. It's kind of interesting here, and I had some feedback from a couple of listeners, and I appreciate that, asking, bottom line, does it matter? what kind of technology are they using, if it's Russian, if it's American, if it's stolen. Of course, the intellectual property has been a real big deal. We've talked about it a lot over the last weeks on the show because of changes in our patent laws. And IP in China just is not respected, intellectual property. So they have been very busy in China breaking into, quite literally, sites here in the U.S. Question is, who's doing it? Is it the government, which it looks like is the case here with the stealth fighter, or is it the businesses, which over there, because remember, it is a communist country, is owned by the government. All these businesses are owned by them. So who's doing it, and does it matter? Well, yes, it does. It really matters, not just to our national security, but to our businesses here. And until China really starts respecting intellectual property, there are a lot of companies, Apple included, who just won't have some of their equipment made in China, and those that do say, we'll put the software on it. Once you physically manufacture this product and ship it over here, we'll go ahead and put it on ourselves, all the software. You're listening to Tech Talk with Craig Peterson. We're going through some articles in the news this week. This next one is an article that I got a lot of feedback on, especially on my LinkedIn account, where people, or of course mostly business people, are saying, whoa, wait a minute now. Maybe this is a good way to go with our patent problems. Here's what's happening. Many people out there have been kind of patenting the problem. What they've been submitting to the patent office is kind of a definition of the problem, and it's very, very wide. So let's go back to patenting the solution here. What is the solution? And software patents, as well as patents surrounding the internet, have really been claiming just all kinds of benefits and all kinds of broad-reaching things. In fact, there's a couple articles I'm not going to talk about today, but I did put out on Twitter and Facebook that talk about the big problem Apple's having. They just lost a patent battle. Now, it was only a $300 and some odd million award from the judge in that case, but why is Apple losing these patents? It's a big company for things that really should be obvious. So we've still got some serious problems, and we're going to have to do a follow-up in one of the shows with what happened at this real big meeting that just occurred a couple of weeks ago. We've talked about it on the show, internationally trying to solve this problem, because it isn't just a U.S.-based problem. Well, if you are a Star Wars fan, and I have been for years, I'm quite a bit of a sci-fi fan, frankly, there is a new deal here. There is a new Star Wars film, Episode 7, that's going to be coming out in 2015. Now, you might remember George Lucas had laid this out as the 3 middle movies. Those are what came out in the late 70s, early 80s. And then we had the prequel, which came out not too long ago, those 3 movies. And people didn't like them so much for various reasons, but parts of them are very, very good. Well, now he's making the next 3, which follow the 1970s Star Wars movie. Well, he's not making them. He's going to be, George Lucas, doing some advising here to the new owners of the Star Wars franchise. In case you didn't hear, Lucasfilm Limited was bought for $4.05 billion in cash and stock. Quite a deal. George Lucas got it in, and he even said this before the Obama tax increases hit, the whole financial Armageddon. So he got the deal done. He got it all done before the end of the year so that his taxes wouldn't be as high as they would be otherwise. And for those people who think that, of course, the tax policy doesn't have any effect on business, ask George Lucas. He sold it to Walt Disney. So Walt Disney Company is acquiring Lucasfilm Limited, all of their assets, which include the very lucrative Star Wars franchise, to Disney. So we'll see what happens here. Disney's also taking control of the special effects and sound facilities, Industrial Light and Magic, as well as Skywalker Sound. Both those guys have been involved in some incredible deals over the years. So this should be interesting here. People are putting in their 2 cents about whether or not it's a good thing or it's a bad thing. I guess we'll see as time goes on.